Welcome to the Futurist Public Intellectual. On March 21st, 2024, the Department of Justice, along with the Attorneys General of various states, initiated an antitrust lawsuit against Apple alleging anti-competitive behavior. The complaint states that Apple engaged in prohibited behavior in the areas of super apps, cloud gaming, messaging apps, smart watches, and digital wallets. As we saw in episode 37, the European Union went after Apple itself, but it didn't go as far as to say that Apple is a monopoly. Antitrust law also doesn't require companies to be monopolies before they are sued. They just need to be engaging in anti-competitive behavior. While Apple has about 65% of the US smartphone market, it got to its enviable market position through popularity. It's irrelevant whether you think the iPhone is a worse phone than other Android options. Apple could easily argue that it's a so-called innocent monopoly, a monopoly achieved through merit. Furthermore, as the EU realized, Apple is not exactly a monopoly because there are plenty of major competitors who have significant market shares in the domestic market and huge market shares in the global market. If people don't want to buy an iPhone, there are plenty of other options. Just because the iPhone has a certain social cachet that Android phones don't isn't a concern of antitrust law. Yes, it would be nice if Apple products had more interoperability with non-Apple products, but forcing Apple to cooperate with competitors by dedicating precious resources to ensure interoperability is rather strange. If you look at the undercurrent of the DOJ complaint, it's really about what's happening on the iOS platform, not the platform itself. Antitrust is about either not letting competitors into the market or not letting them compete while in the market. Apple is doing neither. Apple is not letting competitors compete on its platform, but it is not preventing companies from creating their own platforms. I think comparing Apple to Disney is illustrative. Disney has the most popular theme parks in the world, with attendance that's 3 times greater than Universal's. Is the DOJ going to go after Disney because of its theme park market share and say that people who go to Disney parks shouldn't be held captive to the food and entertainment options available in the park? Part of the Disney theme park experience is the curation of the food and entertainment options. Just because Chick-fil-A would be nice to have at Disney World and many people would appreciate it, doesn't mean that Disney has to open its park to Chick-fil-A if it doesn't want to. Having a Chick-fil-A in the park would take away from space that could be dedicated to the ever-popular character dinners with Mickey and Stitch. In this analogy, the theme park is the platform that Disney created. What goes in it is Disney's prerogative. The exclusion of certain things is part of the curation process. If people like what's available at the parks, then people will go. If people don't like what's available, they will go to competitors' parks. Since the curation itself is the product differentiator, the government's meddling with the curation process is troubling. If people prefer Harry Potter over Star Wars, people will go to Universal Studios. Exclusion per se is not anti-competitive. The biggest bugaboo for the DOJ is that many consumers want the walled garden that Apple has created. The walled garden is a feature, not a bug, of the iPhone's design. It's interesting because, as a comparison, Apple's Mac computers are not walled gardens. You can choose to download apps from the App Store, but you can also install other apps independently. Due to the pervasive nature of smartphone use, there are privacy and security advantages to a walled garden that the DOJ misunderstands. I think the main arguments that have the most merit are those regarding smartwatches and digital wallets. There's no real reason why Apple can't make non-Apple Watch smartwatches work great on the iPhone, or allow other financial institutions to innovate with digital wallets instead of forcing everyone to use Apple Wallet. Once again, it's not actually that big a deal because of what I said about Disney, but it certainly would be a good faith gesture in terms of expanding consumer choice in those realms. But overall, until the DOJ can explain why it's going after Apple but not Disney, I don't think there's much of a case here. Thank you for listening to the Futurist Public Intellectual.